Here at Chef and After Hours. On today's episode, I'm going to show you folks how to prep up a turkey for a nice festive turkey dinner. Here we have our 6 kilogram turkey. I'm just going to start off by pulling out the neck bone that they usually put in the carcass and use that for stock, as well as pulling out the liver and kidney that I can cut up later on and use for the stuffing. Getting into the left thigh, I'm slowly doing an incision along the side in order to separate that section from the carcass. Popping the joint just makes it a lot easier. This way I can kind of get all of the meat that comes off of the thigh bone before hitting the carcass. Yeah, if you would have been able to hear that sound, you'd hear a pop as you're popping the hip joint out of the socket. And now I'm going to repeat the same process on the other leg. So you can see that incision a little bit more clearly there, and just following along the side of the thigh, popping that joint again and then bending it around so I can get all of that thigh meat right off of the carcass in one piece with the thigh. And now I'm going to start off by popping the joint on the wing, just so it makes it a little bit easier to get around that shoulder joint, if you will. The idea here of why I'm popping that joint is so that it'll be a lot easier to cut that meat out, or rather to cut the wing out without taking too much of the breast meat out. Now you see me splitting the wing tip off. Again, I'll be throwing that into the pile for what I'm going to be using for my stock, and I am now splitting the wing part off of the drumette of the wing. And of course, I'll be repeating the same process on the other side. Being a utility bird, you'll notice that we didn't have the wing tip on this one, but again, not a big deal. I'm just trying to salvage whatever I can for dark meat, and whatever bones are not to be used for eating, I'll be using to make the stock with. So now I'm going to be going into the back section. I'm cutting along basically where the ribs would be, heading down towards the shoulder socket. Yeah, if you got a good sharp knife, I mean, you lead with the tip and put it down towards where the neck hole would be, and then just slide the length of your blade along the ribs, always being mindful to make sure that your hand is not in the direction of where the knife is. Yeah, you can see what I'm doing right there. I'm just basically trying to feel for where that joint is so that I can kind of cut through the tendons to separate it, rather than having to cut through the bone itself for that area. It just makes it a lot easier on your knife. Now I'm going to split that back in two, cut it apart. I'm not doing this for any particular reason other than to make it a little bit easier to fit into my stock pot. Okay, and now we have the breast still on the bone, so I'm basically following along the center line with my hand and sliding along the bone from one side to the other, basically to get all the breast meat. So now that I've gotten that incision down the center, I'll be basically following along the chest and the ribs, chest bone and the ribs, I should say, and just sliding my blade along that so I can minimize the amount of loss from the meat coming off the breast. So if I can keep on sliding along that bone, I'll be able to get pretty much all the meat off the carcass. Yeah, and you can keep on sliding down until you hit pretty close to the backbone. You'll know when it's over, because basically you'll come to the end of where meat is contacting the bone. There we go. Now I'm doing the other side again, following along the sternum, down the center, and sliding my blade basically along the chest and the rib section, just to keep the meat as much intact on that breast as possible. You'll see I'll just go a little bit at a time, just because I find the smaller incisions I can get a little bit more precise with how much of the meat I'm pulling off of the bone. If I do like wide, broad strokes, at least I found in my personal experience, you tend to leave a little bit of extra meat on that bone that you didn't want to have there. Because, bear in mind, I want to use the meat for the turkey dinner itself, and anything that's left over on the bone is basically going to be used to make that wonderful stock that I'll be using for the stuffing and, in the end, the gravy. As you can see, that carcass there I just set aside, and that's going to go into the pile of bones that I'm going to be using for that stock. Now I'm separating the thigh from the leg part, and you can usually see a line where the two muscle groups basically separate. And if you can't spot that, depending on if there's still skin cover, start bending around the joint like you can see I'm doing right now, and then you'll be able to feel with your fingertips where that joint is, and that's where you can put the incision for your blade to separate the thigh from the leg section. Here we are. I'm just gonna start setting up the seasoning on the bird, and it's basically equal parts rosemary to lemon thyme, and of course a bit of sage. I haven't put any salt and pepper on there yet. I just want the herbs to basically soak in there for 24 hours. And there you go. Of course, you want to season both sides of the meat. Yep. Here I am bagging everything up. We are essentially just a family of four, and one of the four is a baby, and my daughter is pretty young, so we don't generally need more than half a turkey at a time, which is basically part of the reasoning why I split the meat off of the bone. The other part is so that I can have the bones in order to make that killer stock. Again, while I'm doing the whole roasting process, having it separated, my dark meat is going to cook a lot faster than my white meat because they're smaller pieces. I mean, you'll figure that common sense out part, right? It's like on the smaller the piece, obviously, the faster it's going to cook. So now that I have it separated, one of these bags I will be using for the dinner that we will be having on Sunday. And the other bag I am just going to freeze for a future meal. It's like, odds are it'll probably end up making like another nice dinner to have some guests over in a few weeks from now. So, and there you go. What's remaining is the liver and the heart that I will be eventually cooking off and chopping up for the stuffing. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you'd like to see more content like that, just hit the subscribe button.